So when, say, evaluating, and let's stay very, very focused, agencies in the MarTech and digital analytics space. If you're evaluating agencies, are there any telltale signs that you would see right out of the gate that could help clue you in that this is an agency that does this, or is it sometimes like things you just need to keep an eye on and make sure that like it's not this slow creep toward it.
I mean, I think it's the latter because I don't think agencies are going to come out and tell you during the sales process, oh, by the way, we have this, unique design to our system where once you're onboarded, you can get in, but you ain't getting back out. Like they're not going to tell you that, right? And
No, and I
so,
didn't think they would say that, but like, is there maybe other
yeah,
tells that it's like, oh, like I'm concerned about that.
I think it's difficult to know, other than asking really tough questions around, what are your processes? How do you do this? Can you tell me about a time where it did that? Like, you have to get a good sense for it. But as far as a tell, I don't know. Um, don't do an RFP. Like again, like I've been railing on RFPs, but RFP is a great way to select a vendor that's going to lock you in, because
How so?
well, they're cold, they're clinical, and what they're doing is they're not allowing you to connect with your vendor on a human level to really get a sense of their ethics, of their values. So when you're completing an RFP, like you've set these really strict rules for how you can communicate, and you're communicating primarily through this vehicle that's this document format that they've created. And so you're evaluating your match with a vendor based on these responses that have been kind of predetermined to fit within these guardrails. And so you have very, very little ability to have a conversation like you and I are having. This is how you select vendors. This is how you select partners. It's not through some clinical intake form. It's through sitting down and having conversations on a human level to get a sense of, not only what skills Jim brings, but how do you view things? What's your ethos? What's kind of your ethical standards? How do you think about quality? Those things are really, really difficult to get across in a clinical setting like an RFP. But if I'm sitting down and talking with Jim and we're having human to human conversations, I can get a pretty good sense of, are we aligned in how we view things from an ethical perspective.
Okay, so then to flip the question around a bit, like I know you just asked a couple questions, but like, are there specific things that you would bring up, specific topics, specific questions to elicit like, is this agency really caring about my success, or are they trying to pull me in and get me stuck into their ecosystem?
Tell me about your longest tenured client,
Oh, that's a good one.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's going to tell a story. If you've had a client for 6 years, and let's kind of stick in the analytics space, and you say, what are you doing with this client? And they're like, well, we're kind of just doing the same thing we did 6 years ago. We're kind of just repeating. That's going to tell a very different story of, well, we started off doing A, and we worked ourselves out of a job, and we built this whole team, and then we kind of pivoted and we did this thing over here, and then we kind of went up here and did this other thing. Have them tell you about that client journey. I think that's going to tell you a lot about how they view their relationship with the client. If you see them growing with the client, if you see them leaving a client smarter than how they met them, if you see like them building teams and really mentoring the organization so they can move up and solve bigger and more complex problems, then that tells you they're probably not interested in locking them in. If, on the other hand, you're hearing a story of, well, we haven't really matured much in 6 years, and we're kind of just keeping the lights on, and of course they're not going to come out and say it like that, but if you can kind of pick that up from the story, that they're really just there kind of as a staff aug and kind of doing the thing and doing the checklist of doing the work, there's a high likelihood that they've built some systems in place to keep them locked in and to secure the job, that they'll keep doing that job. But there's really very little interest in maturing the client, because why would I have to? Why would I need to put in that extra work? We've got them locked into the ecosystem. What's my motivation to try to do bigger and better things with them?